Who would be a Wolves fan, eh?
On goes Paul. People might yet win it here for Wolves. Blasting the shot. What a goal!
Good evening, Wolves fans. It's Friday night, and you know that only means one thing. Welcome to your Wolves Fancast match preview for Wolves versus Arsenal in the Premier League in association with the Sports Social Podcast Network, FCQUIZ.APP, and the Bostin Coffee Company. Joining me to talk about the Arsenal game tonight, we've got Dean, Josh Lem, and Rich Griffiths. I'll come to you first, Dean. How's your week going? How you feeling? Just about football in general and about just life in general. Let's start off on a happy note.
Life's been good this week. I've done 4 of my 5 days working from home, so that's always a bonus. Did end up a bit of a negative. The only day I did go in the office was today, which was all the way to Trowbridge and back, so that was a fair old trek. But other than that, life's good. Football-wise, we need to sign some players. But other than that, everything's all right. Looking forward to tomorrow in a slightly sadistic way. But it's always good to get uptown and see the lads and see what's cracking.
No, definitely. Welcome to you as well, Rich. Nice to see you the other night. Obviously, we had a bit of a fancast meet-up, watched the Chelsea game together. Sad about the result, but it's always good to see everyone else. How you doing, Rich? How's your week going? Any new shirts been purchased this week, or are you on a bit of a downturn?
I could say yes, but I got to keep it a secret till tomorrow until I release it.
Okay.
But yeah, only the one so far this year. I've been good. I've been a good boy. Probably because I've got too many behind me already. But yeah, good week. Great to see the guys on obviously on Monday. Obviously, I haven't seen really all of you together since the football, to be honest. So yeah, no, it was good. It was real good. Pleasure as always.
Oh, fantastic. And Josh Lem 2.0 with us. How you doing, Josh? How's your week going?
Started off a bit mixed. Went down to London to watch us against Chelsea. Other than the 90 minutes, decent day, which seems to be the story of the season at the minute, to be honest. And then just been at work since. Knackered at the end of it, to be fair, but yeah, I'm all right, thank you.
Brilliant. Nice to have you all join us tonight, just to have a little chat about this.
How are you, Jafo?
Oh, I'm fine. I'm always fine. I'm the most just like relaxed person in the world normally, you know me. But yeah, thanks to everyone who's watching live. Thank you for 123 North Street for tuning in live on YouTube. Maximus Wright, thank you for rushing through your chores to spend some quality time with us talking about this. Hopefully we don't depress you too much with our views heading towards the Arsenal game. But first up, guys, I want to talk about not so much the game. I want to talk about a player. And that player is the one that is on the lips of every Premier League club at the moment, but especially Arsenal, and that is Matheus Cunha. Now, Vitor Pereira in his press conference has obviously spoken about the situation. He's had a conversation with Cunha, and he believes that he remains committed to the club. He believes that he isn't asked to leave the club and is tomorrow determined to try and beat Arsenal. Cunha is fully aware of what Vitor Pereira expects him to do as a player, and he feels like the whole situation is sorted. Dean, what are your thoughts on the whole Cunha thing and how everything unfolded on social media following the Chelsea game?
I'm not going to go into the Clapgate social media debacle too much, because obviously that's between Liam and Cunha, and don't really want to say too much on that. I think with all the noise around Cunha at the moment, there's no smoke without fire. So whether that's Cunha himself, probably not. But is it Cunha's team, his agent, everyone around him pushing, drumming up interest? It's probably that. I think Forest is a bit of a weird one, because I didn't think they'd have the you just throw me off there. I think they'd have the financial capacity PSR wise to be able to chuck the money that we'd expect round. But if they want to, I'm under no illusions that Marinakis would do that if he could do it, because he's as owners go, you wouldn't want much more. He puts all his money in and he will stump up the cash when he needs to. Cunha's, I think the thing on Monday was a bit of a culmination of everything. Cunha's body language was pretty bad during the whole game. One thing I will kind of mention is obviously Liam's come out and said that he just missed it when he looked at it, and he didn't say the tweet with any malicious, saying he'd gone straight down the tunnel, which I understand that. But at the same time, why did you quote tweet a tweet when you were talking about Cunha's body language? So it kind of, I get you've missed it, and this probably wasn't really innocent mistake. But knowing the vitriol that's online anyway, and the Storm, then we've just been battered. We played very poorly. It's just an unfortunate thing that he probably has made a mistake there, but who doesn't? So everyone does do it. So I think it was a bit of a storm in a teacup to a degree, but there was mistakes on both sides. So I think hopefully it's water under the bridge now. Vitor's set his stall out with Cunha, so Cunha knows what's expected of him, which again, that's what you'd expect your manager to do. That's got a bit of backbone about them. So I think hopefully it's just something we can move on from now.
Yeah, most definitely. Obviously, you went to the game, Josh. Looking at it from the outside, Cunha looked like he may have been rushed back a little bit because he looked a little bit out of sorts and he might not have been in 100% condition. How did you feel like he played, and what did you think about his sort of attitude on the pitch during that game?
I usually, at this point, well, where we are now, come away from a lot of games thinking, I know what is going to happen in these games. No one's really going to turn up other than 3 or 4 players, 2 of which are usually always João Gomez and Matheus Cunha. João Gomez obviously again gave everything, but Cunha, everyone around me was saying the same thing really. It's either he's been rushed back or he just doesn't want to be here. I'd imagine it's probably a bit of both. It's like, well, I'm not fully fit. I'm pushing for a move, so I'm not going to exert myself too much. I'd imagine it's a bit of both. But I don't know. You see him sometimes in the past. He seems up for like the fight as well. You know, when people talk about us versus Ipswich, people say, well, we've got the players, they've got the fight. Cunha, you see him as a very passionate player who seems like he does have the fight, but it just doesn't seem like he wants to be here anymore, to be honest. And I think that was noticeable on Monday. Okay.
I'll come to you with the similar sort of question, Rich. I mean, it's a bad situation to find ourselves in. It is the worst possible timing for any player to have his sort of heads turned. But do you think, what is your opinion on the whole situation? And 2, seen on social media, like even like Arsenal themselves posting clips about how they're training and calling it Samba football. Do you think there's like little snippets that's been sort of leaked into the ecosphere of the social media to try and turn his head a little bit more, or to try and force him to try and make a move off his own back?
I think it's going to be tricky in January for someone to get the deal across the line, because obviously he's our star man, especially as the front line. The figure, assist, the goals he's been this year has been outstanding. Yeah, he's obviously had a injury again and a poor couple of weeks, with us. But we've had 3 shocking results where we probably thought we might get a bit more out of it. Didn't really play too bad against Forest, still battered, or was all right against Newcastle, battered, poor against Chelsea, properly battered. He's frustrated. I think like a lot of Wolves fans, you can see it. The lads that go home and away, you can see the fact, as Josh was saying, there's frustrations as well. We want better. We want better from our superstars that are at the club. I take it on a look at, we spent 45 million quid on a lad that no one else wanted to take a punt on at the time from Atletico, that maybe was struggling, that they didn't want. We wanted him. We proved to give him a good contract. And obviously it's been fruitful in the end for us, but we're hoping it's not ending on a very sour note like so many other footballers that have come and gone that's a superstar and think they're a bit too big for the club. Don't want it to end on a sour note with him, really. A bit frustrating, really. Like I say, is he fit? Possibly not. Did he have obviously the flu as well, which probably didn't help. It's tricky, really. And as for Arsenal trying to do the Samba football, dream on. I don't think they've got enough pennies in the bank to be spending in January for Cunha, to be honest. I don't know who's going to want to stump up the 60, 70 million quid in January. unless you're desperate, trying to either get top four, break like Forest. To be fair, obviously trying to break into the top four. But yeah, I'm hoping it's not Forest he goes to be honest with you, I really hope.
Yeah, I still think it's highly unlikely that he'd want to take that as his next step in his career. But it is very frustrating to see a player potentially go down the same route as somebody like a Matheus Nunes. And I don't think us as fans and us as people who have any sort of affiliation with the club would expect. And I think to see a player who, I think as you said, Josh, gives so much heart, gives so much passion and effort towards the club, you wouldn't see that change. I've seen that sort of change in attitude. I think would be very strange to come from Matheus Cunha. Good comment from Maximus Wright on YouTube. Cunha will show his character in the next game, we hope. It's a catch-22 because you can recognise they have reasons at the same time to do better. Balanced is the buzzword from us fans and managers. I mean, I can't agree more. I mean, it's one of those. If he's damned if he does, and damned if he doesn't. If he doesn't play well, it's because Arsenal turned his head. If he does play well, it's because he wants to impress Arsenal. He's in a shitty situation either way. A little bit more from the press conference. Sorry, before we move on. For those watching on YouTube, you'll be able to read the quotes. But update on Toti Gomez. He is available for the game, but Vitor Pereira says that he won't play 90 minutes. I mean, that's pretty understandable. He has been out for a little bit. And just a quick side note, because I don't want to talk too much about it, on Mario Lemina. Vitor Pereira says that I am waiting for the end of the market, and then we'll decide what we do. If he stays, he will be a very good player for us, but we'll see. It's not much of a change of a stance. Vitor Pereira doesn't really want to include him too much within the squad currently due to his condition within the team and him not being in the right mental state. But he will assess it after the January window, and if he does want to be here and he does want to give it all, he won't remove him from the squad, and he will be a useful squad player. Moving on to sort of a little bit of transfer news, and I think we can link this with something else. I mean, we've already talked about Matheus Cunha, but the other player that it's been linked in recent days is the American-Brazilian Johnny Cardoso. Tottenham reportedly have a €25 million purchase option for the player, and that kicks in the summer. So it's unlikely that Wolves would go above that, but he's somebody who has been linked. I'll tie that in with comments that Vitor Pereira said previously to the press conference, Dean, and that is the role of Jean-Rick Bellegarde. And Jean-Rick Bellegarde has been linked to playing as a centre mid role due to Vitor Pereira sort of trying to feel where best to utilise him in the team. What's your thoughts on one, Johnny Cardoso, and two, Jean-Rick Bellegarde being involved more and potentially playing in the centre of midfield?
I think with the Cardoso stuff, he's sort of what Vitor has said he wanted in kind of a physical, athletic midfielder. The option that Spurs managed to get in there was linked to Betis taking Lo Celso. So it's kind of Daniel Levy being Daniel Levy, basically, very good and very astute at the business that he does. As for JRB, I think at Strasbourg, he was always best as the advanced of a three-man midfield. Anyone that looks at our midfield would say that we're missing a ball carrying option. Bellegarde, for like certain people on this podcast and certain people in the fan base, doesn't have many fans because he is a little bit, I know it's a long time now, but he's still adjusting to the league, I think. But I think that's partly down to not having a set position or a set run of games. I think it is a bit of a catch-22 on you needs to play himself into form, to throw the cliche out there a little bit. I think playing a bit deeper and a bit more space so he can get the ball, he can carry it. He's got that in his locker. I never saw him as in a double pivot, if I'm honest. But if you want to play him, Andre, and João Gomez as a three, and he can be kind of the advanced of the three, then as like an advanced 8, I think there's got legs in it. But I don't see him as one of a double pivot because he's just not got the physicality for it defensively. Like he shields the ball well, he carries the ball well, I don't think he's got the kind of nuances to do the defensive side of the work at that position. Whether it's someone you move into centre mid when we're chasing the game and you're not so worried about the defensive side of it, then I can see the merits to that. But I think he needs to he's at the time now where he either needs to get a position nailed and stay there and play there consistently to see if he is any good or not, or it's time to just, look for other alternatives.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and I think he's somebody who's not played a lot of consistent games, and it's a difficult situation. I'd like to come to you on this one, Rich, because I know you're not his biggest fan, but are your sentiments sort of in the same area as Dean's, that that maybe he can play his way back into it, or are you totally against the idea?
Mate, if he can perform, I'll play him anyway. He can play left back if he wants, as long as he performs. I'm not really worried. Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of him, but he's not really produced what we hoped. I know he's had obviously big injuries, which never really helped your football career if you've got such injuries. But I'm all for giving anyone a second, third, fourth chance if they continue to kind of show that there's a glimpse of something. It's when they constantly give people games where you think, well, what's the point? I think Dean's probably said it right there, is that he needs a run of games, to be fair to him. I don't think he gets enough of that. Having 5-6 minutes end of a game, 10 minutes, it's not enough for any pro, let alone a guy that's like maybe struggling in the league. If he has 10 games and plays 85 minutes a game, maybe I could probably change my mind on him for sure. But yeah, I'm still in the out version of Bellegarde currently, but I'm trying to be positive for Dean right now.
I really appreciate that, and the Mr. Negative stereotypes, I think, are a little bit misfounded. I mean, anyone who knows you in real life knows that you're not that bad. You're not that bad. Yeah. I'll come to you lastly, Josh. Just as a sort of a general over question, how do you feel like we've done in the transfer window so far, and what sort of positions would you personally be targeting for what we need for our fight for survival?
Well, I think it started off all right, getting Agbadou in relatively early. Obviously, I think everyone knows that we needed at least one centre back. And I didn't think he was great against Bristol City. I didn't watch the Newcastle game, but I heard he wasn't very good. Even though we got battered, I thought he was actually all right against Chelsea. But obviously, he's only played 3 games. You can't really judge him too much. And then we were linked with the lad from... I'm going to say nothing until someone helps me out with the club because I can't quite remember it.
I'm a bit lost on centre back target.
I'm lost, mate. Yeah,
the lad from Portugal who ended up going to Benfica.
Oh, Manu.
Yeah, Manu Silva was it? Yeah, he apparently agreed personal terms or something, and then chose Benfica. I don't think you can really blame the club on that too much for that singular transfer. I don't think you can blame him either, really. Go to Benfica in your home country or go and play in a relegation battle in a foreign country. It's a no-brainer. But there's just not enough activity, really. There was the lad who's at Betis, who I'm not really too sure about. I don't know much about the player. But considering how important it is that we get at least another centre-half in, ideally a midfielder, and now it looks like you're probably going to need maybe a different option to Strand Larsen, because whether he's just tired, whether it's just simply not working for him, I think we need something else. But there's just not been enough activity. I've seen some people saying, they wouldn't be opposed to selling Cunha for the right price if you can get 2 or 3 players in the door. But I would not trust Fosun to sell a player as good as Cunha and probably get even 1 player in, to be honest with you. So there just needs to be more activity, but there's 6-7 days left of the window. I would honestly, unfortunately, be surprised if we get 1 more player in.
Yeah, I think just a lack of noise on a whole level, I think, as you say, is worrying. And I think we'll get to the end of it, and hopefully we have enough. And I think you pretty much nailed it on the head, talking about we probably need another forward. I'm hoping, and I say this with so much strength in my heart, that Toti Gomez comes back in and he is able to take that left centre back and get Agbadou onto the right and give us balance, because that's 100% what we need. And midfielders, maybe we need something. I'm very hopeful that we can do something with the players that we have, because I just don't think the investment's there. But with Cunha, I really hope we don't sell him, because I think that would just be writing our own tombstone and our own obituary, because it would be the stupidest thing to do. But I wouldn't put it past Fosun in at this point. Obviously, we're playing Arsenal at the weekend. We haven't spoken too much about the game, but I put some graphics up for those watching on YouTube. Our starting 11 was a bit of a surprise, Dean, wasn't it, going into Chelsea? We saw the return of Cunha, who we thought was going to be out with the virus. Pablo Sarabia come back to the starting 11. And Semedo came back in for the very informed Rodrigo Gomez. How are you looking at the game tomorrow? How do you expect us to set up, and do you expect any changes?
I think Sarabia will drop out, but I think it's a bit of a toss-up between Gedge or Rodrigo on who comes in. I probably think he'll go for Gedge instead, but Rodrigo is the bit of the shining light at the moment, isn't he? In the last kind of month or so, he's been the player that's kind of standing out, and he's said himself in interviews he's got quite a good relationship with Gedge. So down that right side of Bristol, obviously that created some really good opportunities for us. So I don't know how you can get them all in the team, or whether you kind of have to just do a swap halfway through. Say if we're losing the game, you take Semedo off for a more attacking option and go for Rodrigo like Nuno used to do, sticking Adama at right wing back and Vinagre on the other side. Is that an option? I think that's probably the only change, because obviously Totti's not going to be ready to start. Unless Dawson comes in and Bueno moves across to the right, especially with Arsenal's set piece prowess, should we say. You can't, even though Doc's quite good in the air, he's just not as physically commanding as Dawson is, and organising as well. Like there's a few of the goals, like the Newcastle one sticks out, and there's one at Chelsea where they're all just looking at each other. There's just a distinct lack of leaders on the pitch. They all say the right things off the pitch, and we need to do this, we need to do that, but who's on the pitch like taking the whole team by the scruff of the neck and saying, look, you stand there, that's your man. If you don't get him, I'm going to bollock you, and just have that accountability, which I think Vitor does want them to have. But on the pitch, it's one thing you do, you look through the team list and you've got, who's the natural leader there? Like I know Agbadou did previously at his previous club, but he's still finding his feet, so that's not a time for now. But as for the team, I think Sarabia will drop out. Can't see anything else changing. I think it'll just be that, unless Cunha's head's gone or whatever, or he wants to rest Strand Larsen and go for more pace up top, where he plays Geddes as the 9 and Rodrigo on the right to be able to get back and help Semedo when Odegaard pulls into the pockets with the wingers where they double up, and you just go for that pure pace on the counter and give JSL a break, take him at the firing line. That's probably what I could see happening. Yeah.
Talking about what you said there, and a little bit of about sort of the cohesion of the defence and how they communicate and how they organise each other. The man who we praised in recent weeks is Doherty, but he's looked a little bit out of sorts in the position, and that's understandable, Rich. I mean, it's not his natural position. But looking at the bench, and we're talking about we want leadership and we want a voice on the pitch. Oh, wouldn't we love to have a Craig Dawson that was 5 years younger? And do you think that Dawson could come back in either this game or in the coming weeks, just to steady the ship and to be that leader on the pitch and to give us something like a base to work from?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I'd assume he's probably banging his head against the wall a little bit, thinking that he doesn't get a game. And they're dying for a centre half, and he still doesn't get a game. You must be probably asking question marks about yourself on whether he maybe wants to move in January. Not that the club will probably let him go, but it's a bit odd. Doc, I love Doc to pieces. Yeah, obviously didn't have a great game against Chelsea, really, but I think it's who do you pick? It's a blind leading a blind currently, isn't it? So for me, there's probably a wholesale changes here and there. Again, do you bring in Cunha and or leave him out? Strand Larsen, Sarabia. You obviously got the Doherty kind of issue. There's so many players even in that last lineup. You could probably say maybe change. I assume he's going to keep the same formation as he has done. That's clearly the way he wants to play and go forward. But you could see a whole new front three. Well, jiggle around with probably Cunha playing as the 9, really, and having Guedes and maybe obviously Gomez off him. And then, do you have another centre-half come in? You assume Dawson for Doherty, give him a rest as well, give Strand Larsen a rest. But again, you probably see the same team coming out tomorrow as it did the other day, because that's what we assume. He knows what he wants, what he's going to get from those players. And maybe he doesn't trust the ones on the bench just yet enough for how he wants them to play. So it's kind of on him, really.
I'll come to you, Josh. I mean, do you agree with the sentiments that Rich has, or do you feel like we might see something a little bit out there? We could see Matheus Cunha and Ryan Aït-Nouri up front, as Maximus has just put in the comments.
Yeah, I remember last year when we had some injury problems, Aït-Nouri was our only attacking threat, really. And listen, the best part of his game is obviously going forward. I think he's competent defensively. But saying that, I think against Chelsea, I think he was really poor, and I think he really struggled. The amount of times that Noni Madueke, he was just nowhere near him. And if Noni Madueke was a bit better, he could have punished us even more than Chelsea did. But I think he's got to change something. I wouldn't be surprised, and this might be unpopular, if he goes to a 4 and tries to stick an extra man in the midfield, whether that's, talking about John Bellegarde, if he wants to play Andre literally just sit in front of the defence and shield. You have João Gomez and Bellegarde ahead of him. Whether you bring Tommy Doyle in, just so you've got a bit more control in the midfield. But then you're losing a centre half, and we've got enough set piece problems as it is. Do you really want to take, obviously, another big man out for obviously when another team gets a corner or something? But if we're going to stick with the 5 at the back, I don't see why not play Rodrigo Gomez where Aït-Nouri plays. He did it against Leicester, and he had arguably his best game. It is a shame that Totti's not fit to start, because I think him on the left and Agbadu on the right would have been great. But I don't know, it's getting to the point where it's like, what can you do? Like, it seems like nothing works. It seems like we're going into games. Well, I'm personally going to games thinking, I know we're going to lose. I don't know what to suggest. But I think he's got to change something.
Yeah, I think that's the thing now. The honeymoon period is well over. I mean, the 3 defeats on the bounce. There is a lot of pressure on the manager now to start finding a solution. I wouldn't say there's anything more than just a pressure on him in his own personal pride. We're definitely not in a Ruud van Nistelrooy situation. Well, a million miles away from that. But there's definitely a building pressure, just for a points perspective and just from where we are in the table, that we start putting draws and wins on the table. And I think playing a side like Arsenal, it gives us an opportunity because of that cliche of the pressure being off, because we aren't expected to get anything because of our form. And I'm hopeful that we can do something. I'm just going to take a little bit of a quick break. Those watching on YouTube, we'll be back in a few seconds. But those listening on your normal podcast providers, you'll be back after just a few adverts. So stick with us.
It would be a Wolves fan, eh?
Welcome back to your Wolves Fancast match preview for Wolves versus Arsenal. Before we talk about sort of like some of the other games from the weekend and a few other little bits, I want to talk about how we match up with Arsenal, Dean. And the 2 players that have really shone under Vitor Pereira, and one that we've seen sort of a rebirth in his season, is João Gomez and Andre. And seeing them go up against the likes of Declan Rice and potentially Marino or Jorginho, depending on who Arteta plays, it's a tasty battle every week, isn't it? And these 2 are really starting to shine under Vitor Pereira, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. And to kind of, I think Josh has either hacked mine or your phone, because we had the exact conversation around the 4-3-3, didn't we, the other day? And having Andre to just kind of sit in between the centre backs, because that's what he did at Fluminense. That's been his career. He's not a lot of the clips that you see of kind of the games is Andre is always sitting, João Gomez is off running riot, doing what João Gomez does, and then the other side of the pitch is just completely blank. So I think there is, if we can get two centre-backs that the manager's happy with, I think especially with games like this where you're up against a 4-2-3-1 where the attacking midfielder roams like Odegaard does, and he pulls across to their right more than anything. So that's going to be doubled up on Ryan, which Cole Palmer did quite regularly with Madueke against Ryan, and it was all at sea. So that's the positive to playing the three in the midfield, is you can have one to just sit on their number 10, and then the other two can just go 2 for 2. So I do think Newcastle, we got over on in midfield as well because they had the three physical boys in the middle there. So I hate going 5-3-2. So I wouldn't really want us to do that because I think it really limits us going forward unless you've got some blistering pace, which was good for Nuno and Gary O'Neill to a certain extent because he had that Neto pace to just go, like to just turn defense into attack quite instantly. So coming against that Arsenal where their main creative outlet is the attacking midfielder that's a lot of the time going to be the spare man in the two systems up against each other, it's something to really think about. So like with Totti, I know that we've done it in the past where if Totti was playing, he could step out of the back three, and he did it on Foden quite brilliantly at times. He stepped in and he took that number 10 out of the game and he's followed him. So it's going to be a really interesting tactical battle on how they can get that free man in midfield and use it. But more importantly, what Victor's plan is to try and combat that. And their system, I know they don't play the Arsenal way anymore. They don't. I think I know Arsenal fans go about, they kind of wax lyrical about the set pieces. But if I was an old Arsenal fan, I'd be slightly embarrassed that they've gone from this all football, total football under Arsene Wenger. He's built this culture, and now they are pretty much like Stoke. Like it's play for set pieces, it's long throws, it's corners, it's time waste, it's foul. Like it's a horrible brand of football. Like I watched the Arsenal Villa game last week, and that was just, for a neutral, that was disgusting to watch. It was a horrible game of football, but it's effective. It's functional football, which I said previously when Vitor would come in, that's what he's going to bring to us. Hopefully, he's like, effective football doesn't have to be pretty. You play the percentages, you play the margins, you let your superior players make the difference. And I think we've got to try and negate that and mitigate their skill levels, and then also try and give ourselves space on the counter or whatever to hurt them, which I think we can do. We have the players to do so, but the midfield's going to be the important battle on how we can keep Odegaard quiet.
Yeah, I think you got it bang on. I think that's the biggest challenge that we've had, and especially, and I think you exactly right talking about the Newcastle game, is how we stop ourselves from getting flooded in midfield and how we stop teams from stepping onto us. The other sort of matchup that I'm a little bit concerned about, and I'll come to you, Rich, is sort of how Strand Larsen goes up against Saliba and Gabriel, because although he is a very powerful guy, he's quite good in the air. He's not done that well against aggressive, tall centre-backs this season. Do you think it's something that we need to either persist with Pereira, or is it something where he needs to change the style slightly? And when we play against these teams with big centre-backs, he might need to go with someone, as we've talked about, with a lot of pace.
Yeah, it's tricky really because it depends on the formation we're going to start with. Is maybe a 4 at the back, 5 at the back, 3 at the back. It's thank you very much. It's going to be tricky really for Strand Larsen in any game he plays in the Prem. He's very isolated some games. He's a lone man with his hold at play has normally been very, very good, but the last few weeks it's not been great. Maybe, like someone said before, maybe he is tired. Maybe he does need a bit of a rest. But yeah, being so isolated and such space between him and the centre mid, he's got nothing to really. Even if he does hold the play up, but what's he got there to give? Maybe at the time might have Cunha breaking with him, but other than that, there's no one there with him. He's 20, 30, 40 yards in front of the play sometimes. So yeah, it's going to depend on who do we have a 3 in midfield. And like I said, maybe have Bellegarde breaking from midfield and carrying the ball a bit more rather than lumping it long. We don't want to be a Stoke either to isolate him. If we're going to be helping him out, get some crosses in properly and let him do his work. He's a fantastic player, and he's not been great the last couple of weeks, but I still think he's outdone himself this year in the Prem for us because we all were expecting very little, but hoped he'd produce a lot. And I think he has produced most weeks. But you say last 3 weeks really is where he's been let down a little bit. I think someone mentioned it before. His XG now is dropped down because of how many chances he's been missing. But maybe he's, like you said before, maybe he has a rest and we play a different brand of football against Arsenal. They're not the sexy football team that they used to be, as Dean was saying, thank God. So you got a chance of beating them. You keep Rice quiet, you keep Odegaard quiet. You got a really good chance. Yes, they've got a good back four as such, but we've still got enough to beat teams like this. We really do. But again, taking chances is going to be the key, I think.
Yeah, I think bang on again. I think everything you said is correct. I think it's one of those now where we need to find the right way of producing chances. And I think a lot of us, all of us want here is us to be as solid as possible and to try and create chances in any style, because that's all we need at the moment is to keep creating chances. Come to you lastly on this sort of topic, Josh, and I'll come to Strand Larsen again. And something we talked about then was the 5-3-2 as a possibility. Do you think that JSL could play in that? And who do you think would be best suited to playing with him? And if not, who would you play as a front two?
I do think it'd help him if he had someone next to him, if we're going to continue to play towards him the way that we are, as in just hoof balls up to him and hope that he can control them down. Because like Rich said, a lot of the times, even if he is controlling a ball, there's absolutely nobody near him and there's nothing that he can do with it. And I think Cunha, obviously not just because he's our best player, but just because of the type of player he is. He's good in tight spaces. If Strand Larsen can knock a ball down to him, hold it for a second, pass it off to Cunha, Cunha's good enough in those tight spaces to maybe manoeuvre the ball. And in the space of 2 or 3 seconds, maybe you've got a few more players who have come up and joined the play a bit and you can build from there. It depends how you want to play, really. It's a shame that we haven't got anyone who's like blisteringly quick anymore. Dean said it earlier with Neto last season, but we haven't really got anyone with blistering pace this season, and I think that's something we've lacked a lot this year, because that would be ideal. Again, bit cliche, but big man, big, strong, hold the ball, little man, rapid, put him through and he scores the goals. But a 3-5-2, it's worth a try, I suppose, but I wouldn't be in favour of it.
Yeah, I think it's difficult, and I think you hit the nail on there when you talked about the lack of pace up front. And I think since Neto's gone, you said, Dean, that we haven't got that sort of ability to transition up the pitch 15, 20 yards off one sprint. And it's very, very difficult because we seem to be a team who play at sort of one pace and we can't sort of go through the gears as a counter-attacking style. And I think over our whole time being back in the Premier League, that has been our whole identity. Under Nuno, under Bruno Lage, under Gary O'Neill, we have been a counter-attacking side. And I think our biggest points of when Diogo Jota left, we lost our best player for that system. And Pedro Neto leaving in the summer only crippled us more. So we are in sort of a evolution stage in sort of tactics. And I think that's probably one of the biggest reasons that Gary O'Neill struggled, is not having that ability to play counter-attacking football and play to the strengths of the squad. Talk about some of the other games at the weekend, Dean. It seems like every week the teams at the bottom have hard games, and it's no different this week. We've got Ipswich going away at Liverpool. Surely, with some of the games that are coming up, we've got to get some luck, haven't we?
You'd hope so, but they're going to be looking at our fixtures, saying exactly the same thing. I think you want Brighton to do us a favour. You want Liverpool to do us a favour. Both those teams are away from home, so automatically you've kind of have that little bit of lean towards, well, we're at home, even if we scrape a draw, it's kind of, and they both lose on the road, it still gives us that little bit of a push closer to them, away from Ipswich. I'm going to kind of jump ahead a little bit now and say what game I like, because I'm guessing that was going to be the next question.
Yeah, always.
City Chelsea, I think it's a very much a clash of cultures. Even though Maresca is a Pep kind of graduate, he approaches the game a little bit differently. And Vitor mentioned it today in his presser, is we turned the game into what Chelsea wanted rather than stick to our own game plan. Maresca likes to cause chaos. He wants chaos ball because he then backs his players to be the difference makers with the ball at their feet and to find the gaps. But yeah, that'd be the game that sticks out for me. And I know Wolves are trying to make even more money and milk even more money out of the fans because they're keeping the North Bank bar open after the game tomorrow for people to watch the City-Chelsea game at about kind of £6.50 a pint when you can just walk into town and get it for a lot less than that.
It's a very cynical worldview, that is, Dean. Very, very cynical. But no, it is good that the club are trying to do something, even though it's a stupid thing to do when we've got, obviously, the 10. With you, Rich, I mean, looking at the fixtures, another one that sticks out there is Southampton at home to Newcastle. I mean, Southampton, they've been a bit of a joke this season, but they have brought in new players. Do you think that there is a chance that they could see an upturn in their form and see sort of them start to push back? Because we've got these three sides below us who have really struggled. You know, it's all the promoted sides. Do you think that they could start to come back? And do you think as a whole it's getting harder and harder each year for the three clubs who are coming up to survive?
Yeah, I will say a couple of points. And yeah, the gap between, let's be honest, the bottom five in the Prem to the top three in the Championship it's not just financial anymore. The gulf in player quality is quite huge, I think. Southampton, like you said, bang average again. But they've made a living off selling their superstars throughout their entire industry of being in the Prem. And that's why they're in a situation they're in. They took money over success and, fair enough. They did it the way they wanted it, to balance the books and be self-sufficient, which is fine. But ultimately, it's come back to bite them on the ass a little bit. But yeah, they're struggling. I don't see them getting anything out of Newcastle. Newcastle are obviously on fire, as we saw the other day. They're taking their chances and looking very, very good. But no, I don't see them doing anything against them. But my one little eye on the game is the relegation game between Spurs and Leicester. To be honest, that's a little bit of a joke thing. But yeah, anyway, yeah, for them it's massive game for Spurs, and obviously a good chance for Leicester to take some points off a very poor Tottenham. To be honest.
Yeah, I mean, Ange Postecoglou has had a horrendous season with injuries, and I think there's a lot of pressure on him on how his style of management and his style of how he coaches on the training pitch and how that affects the players in terms of a overperformance and in injuries. I think there's definitely a loggerheads and an aggressive change in attitude, and I think that there'll be a lot to do at Tottenham. I'll come to you lastly, Josh, about the fixtures. Is there any sort of games there that you got your eye on as a neutral, you want to watch and enjoy?
I think Bournemouth Forest could be a great game. I'm not sure on Bournemouth's injuries at the moment. I know they did have pretty much all of the club's strikers out with injury. I'm not sure if that's the case. I'd assume it still is, which maybe dampens it a little bit. But Bournemouth very good at home. I think that could be a great game. Other than that, I don't know. I look at most Premier League games nowadays, though, and I think like near enough every fixture, I think that could be a really good game.
Yeah, I think every game week there always seems to be a perfect game, and I think you said it with the clash of styles, Dean. I think Man City Chelsea could be really interesting, and the chaos of Enzo Maresca could really put one up Pep and stifle this comeback that we're getting. Just a quick note: Wolves under 21s are playing currently against Man City. They have just gone 3-1 up from Danny Angel. There's also a Shirewa penalty since we've been live as well. So at least one of our sides is doing well and getting some goals, and especially against the champions as well. That's always nice. So just moving on, Little Dan's put in some odds here, and some of them are a little bit long, Dean. Some of them are a little bit long, and I'd love to see it. But for those watching on YouTube, you can see on our screen. But is there anything on there, Dean, that if you found £1 in your back pocket of your jeans, or down the back of the sofa, is there anything that you'd be putting money on?
I think it'd probably be the first one on the list. So it's Strand Larsen and Kai Havertz to have more than one shot on target each. So you'd back them both potentially playing as the strikers. You'd expect them to have 2 shots on target, I think. That's the main one that sticks out. The one that's surprisingly short is the Wolves win. I think to Wolves win 1-0, 2-0, or 2-1, only being 7-1. With everything that's going on at the minute, I thought any kind of Wolves win would be double figures. But straight, even though we are at home. But yeah, those are the two that jump out to me, I think.
How about you, Rich? You bought one of these shirts or an old tracksuit, and Bully's left a £5 in the back pocket, and so you take Bully's money. What are you going to put it on?
I think Gabriel would score a header because we can't defend set pieces, to be honest. At 9-1, that seems good odds, surely. But yeah, I think a win tomorrow. It's not unachievable, to be honest. I think the odds there are, like you said, the 7-1 seems a bit daft, but yeah, whatever. I guess they don't think we're as bad as we currently are. So yeah, magic. I'll take a £5 on 7-1 right now on a 1-0.
Oh, definitely. How about you, Josh? Is there anything that you fancy there, or anything you've got to put on your bet builder this weekend?
As a self-proclaimed gambling investor, my eyes were instantly drawn to the 125-1. But I don't think there's a chance it comes in. I don't think there's a chance we score in both halves. Yeah, probably the first one, to be honest. Yeah, 20-1. I think that's surprisingly good odds, in fairness. But other than that, Gabriel to score a header as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Gabriel one is really, really good odds, considering our lack of set piece strength this season. And I will just caveat this whole section by saying that I as somebody who's not into gambling too much myself, but if you are gambling, make sure that when the fun stops, stop, as the saying says. So if you cannot afford to gamble, please do not. Before we come on to sort of our predictions, I just want to say massive congratulations to Matheus Cunha and his partner Gabby, as they've announced on Instagram while we've been live that they are expecting a baby. I think that we'd all give our congratulations to both of them, and hope that everything goes smoothly with the pregnancy. That's fantastic news for him, and hopefully can help settle his mind a little bit about what he does in the future, and being a father can help him guide himself.
Some would say that could be factoring into his lethargic outlook on Monday. Maybe she's got some cravings, or he had to get to Tesco at 4 o'clock in the morning.
I was in the 24 hour as they're getting some cookies. Brilliant. Fantastic. So we'll sort of end on predictions. How are you feeling about it, Dean? I mean, you can give me a heart and head, or you can just give me a straight up prediction. What are you thinking for tomorrow?
2-1 to Wolves. I will always back a Wolves win. I can't not. 2-1 to Wolves. Agbadu to score, and Gedge to score the other one.
That's something. I'll come to you next, Josh, because I want a non-Rich. What are you feeling for tomorrow?
I like your prediction, Dean, because I think in all 3 games Agbadu's played, I've backed him to score. Heart, 1-1 draw. Head will be 2-0 down at half time. I'll have left, and I won't care about the end result.
Straight to the point. I love it. How are you feeling, Rich? You can give me a heart and head if you want, or just give me a straight up prediction. What are you thinking?
Oh, you're thinking I'm going to be negative, which I normally have. I'm going to go 3-2 Wolves. Cunha hat-trick, and he's going to rock the baby in a corner flag. Get in.
I've broken, Rich.
Yeah, finally the streak is broken. The happiness is here. I'm hoping for a win, but let's see. Go on, Dino.
I just want to Maximus has asked where we all sit. So I think Josh is South Bank. I'm South Bank. The only person I think that's in the Steve Ball is the famous Stu Hall. So just have a search for Stu in there, Maximus. You'll find him.
Yeah, I'm Billy Wright. I don't know about you, Rich.
I
you
acquire
go.
tickets in the South Bank, luckily, so it's normally where I go.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, so we're all over the shop. Yeah, so hopefully tomorrow we can enjoy the game. We can have a fantastic result.
No. What's your prediction, Jaffo?
Oh no.
You ain't getting off that easy, mate. Come on.
Okay. I'll go 1-1. I can't see us beating Arsenal. I really can't. My positivity has taken a hit in the last few weeks with the back-to-back defeats. But I'm still hopeful. I trust a lot of Vita Pereira and what he's doing. And I hope the news that has come out during the show about Matheus Cunha expecting a baby, as you said, Rich, motivates him to go out there and smash a hat-trick for his unborn child. So fingers crossed. But hopefully we'll see you for the review show on Sunday or talking about the result. Hopefully we're all positive and have something really good to talk about. Hopefully Guogo Chang has a great time at Molineux tomorrow. He really enjoys the game. And Jeff Shee gets sacked. I know, maybe not. But
and he enjoys the Jeff song.
Yeah, I hope he really enjoys listening to all the shit that Jeff Shee's going to take. So we'll catch you there next time, Wolves fans. Thanks for everyone who's listened live. Thanks for everyone who supports us through social media. Anyone who listens to us on podcasts, wherever you listen to us. Make sure you check us out on our website as well for our merch. That's wolvesfancast.tmail.com. And that was the Wolves Fancast preview with the Sports Social Podcast Network at FCQUIZ.APP. We'll catch you next time. Peace out.